think Sapna mentioned potential of carbon credits, right? And we know that Shell Foundation, it has a new program that they're pushing called DRECs, distributed RECs. And I believe that's going to be a big part of that $1.7 billion partnership with Enking International here in India. Is to figure out how to get credits of distributed solar. And likewise, across in everything that you're doing, I hope that besides this program, there's more that we can support. Before I start on the financial tree and financial modeling, just to share, we're about to launch something called Climate Seeders Club. It's a small ticket investment platform for clean tech startups, 25 lakh to 1 CR. It may be up to 1.5 CR. It's using safe notes, which means no valuation. It's trying to be as lenient as possible because most of us need money to grow. Not always, but most, especially in clean tech. Do check us out for there by April. Our pilot should go, and by June onwards, we should be accepting as many startups as we can find. That's one. For that to happen, of course, we do need to have financial models. I recognize most clean tech entrepreneurs and most startup entrepreneurs don't come from finance. And that's okay. But what we do need is to have a sufficient control over finance. Now, in this case, we're not talking about cash flow management. We need that. That's like a spreadsheet. Tell me every rupee coming in and out when. That's very important because you don't want to run out of cash, which I've done many times in my life in business. Sometimes you can't help it. The other bit we want to do, and that's the focus today, is on financial modeling for the sake of understanding profitability, and hence valuation. Something that you can start to focus on as well. I think Joey was mentioning that some of you do have financial models, but they're either in early stages or you may need to strengthen your capacity to model as well. It's something that you'll have to do over years to come as you get more and more growth in your company. Your financing needs may increase, funding needs may increase as well over time, as well as financing. Financing meaning like banks or lending. Well, I often use the word funding to mean like equity growth. And can I have a quick show of hands? Who is comfortable with financial models already? Is anyone? You're already okay. Anyone else? Sapna, Sai Krishna, Rachna, Arvind.
Just familiar, not the
much.
experts. The experts, just familiar.
No. Very good, not much. And again, Arvind also comes from a technical background, so I threw him in as well. That's not uncommon, and it's okay. What we're going to do today is go through what's called a financial tree. You may have seen it already. I have an Excel spreadsheet to go walk through this. This is what every entrepreneur can do. And here's the most important thing, at least from valuation or fundraising. This is all you need to know to raise for years to come. It's a bold claim, but it is true. Years to come, meaning next 2-3 rounds if you need. It's the financial trees are the way to explain a startup in a bar, in a restaurant, when someone asks you, how do you make money? Financial trees are also how every investor asks, tell me why this makes sense financially. They never say, boot up your computer, turn on your Excel spreadsheet, and let's go through the lines. They tell me, explain it to me simply. How much do you sell things at? How much does it cost do you make? What's your cost of customer acquisition? How big is this market? And for each customer, how many times do they buy? And when you multiply that together, how much profit or margin do you make? This is something that you can do verbally. And I hope that once we do this, you'll start to build this comfort. Has anyone seen a financial tree before here? Or is this a new concept? Or Arvind, do we know if this is part of our program?
Yeah, I was designing
editing some videos made by some early or some matured startups explaining their financial tree. I've seen those videos.
Right, right. But
Couple,
in our
just
program
a-
so far, we haven't done
Right.
it. Okay. So this is what a financial tree looks like. Let me change the views a little bit. No, I don't know how to do this. It looks like a flow chart. You can notice that there's no Excel models. There's no, well, there are formulas, but there's no typical financial model you may see, when people share around in the next few rounds, and even for maybe the rest of your life. As I mentioned, it's the most informal way. Now, what does this tell me? I'm going to use looking at this. If I see the left side, I say, look, I make 1 crore profit per year. Right? Well, each time I sell a product, I make 40 rupees of profit. Now, how many products do I sell a year? 2.5 lakh, which is at the bottom here. I don't know if you, Arvind, can you see my cursor here? Can I do this?
Yes,
You
sir.
see
Yes,
my
yes,
cursor
yes.
move?
We can see.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see.
So this is how I explain it. Yeah, 40 rupees profit per product. Time I sell, and I sell 2.5 lakh products a year. Multiply 2, I get 1. Is that right? Math, 10. So 1 crore profit per year. Now, I don't see anything about tax. I don't see anything about our net, because we're in early stage startup, it doesn't matter, right? It's adding precision when the uncertainty of your inputs, like how many customers will get are still quite. That's why it doesn't matter. It's not because it's sloppy or easy, because it's going to get us the same result, and also we understand it. So how do I make 40 rupees per product? Well, you can't see in this color, but if I can sell 200 rupees, and the total cost is 160 rupees, well, if I subtract the 2, I get 40 rupees. Now, how do I know what cost is? Well, it's cost to make it 150 rupees, and cost to sell 10, right? Well, how do I know how much it costs to sell 10? I figure out, in this case, it cost me 6 lakhs to get a new customer. This is a big customer, of course, a big corporate, right? But each time this customer will buy, over the life of the customer, which I'll explain, he'll buy 60,000 products, whatever those are, right? Some tool, low cost tool that costs 200 rupees. So when I divide it 2, I can understand that if it costs me 6 lakhs to sell to a customer, I sell 60,000 products on, if I divide 2, a rough estimate, it costs me 10 rupees to sell each, and so on. And there isn't that much more here. That's so confusing. You see these terms like, what is life a customer? What is life a product? Go through that one by one. So what I've done is a simple Excel spreadsheet to walk through it. The top part is your profit margin. The bottom part is the number of products you sell. The profit margin is the top. We can do this once, and then we can ask questions too, especially from an understanding point of view. And then when Aravind and team will send this over, try working on it, and in open office hours, we can work on the financial sheet. Okay, let's start with, what does it cost to, sorry, it's still loading. What does it cost to make per product? Not load. Oh, here we go. All right. Now, if you see in my financial tree, we have the profit per product. This is still not loading. Okay. In the meantime, can you do me a favor, Arvind? Can you get Harshit to send me this as a file instead of a link?
Right, sure.
Because when I download it, I can only download it if I worksheet for some reason.
Right, sure.
So what is it? Let's look at this model. We'll start with cost to make. That's something that's relatively straightforward, right? Cost to make, if you're manufacturing and you're making something, I think someone's making electric EV chargers. You probably have a first estimate because you're making them, or you're at least have designs, engineering designs, etc. This is not the price of cost of to make when you have scale, right? It's probably you have small lots, something that costs 100 rupees to make at home, or before you raise funds may cost 50 rupees once you have a factory and you have scale, for example. So we want this number, the cost to make at scale, at least a small scale, the next 2 to 3 years. How do we figure this out? If you don't come from a manufacturing background, you go and ask an engineer, someone from industry. They will do a pretty good job of back of an envelope, understanding, well, if you're making it costs you 100 rupees now, if you reach this scale with this capacity savings, it may cost you 50 rupees to make in 2-3 years, and that's good enough, right? Remember, our goal of our financial tree is not accuracy, but strong enough to get your goal, which is to raise money or get a valuation, right? We have lots of uncertainty about many things here, so it doesn't make it sloppy. It just makes it recognizes the limitations of the data that we have. If you have a supply chain inputs that you need to price, that's normally easier at scale, because you can ask your vendor, if I buy 10 times more, how much would it cost me today? Right? If you put these two and two together, your supply cost of your items, as well as your manufacturing with a let's say with an engineer, if you can't do it yourself, that estimate in 2-3 years is pretty good. Let's say it's 150 rupees. Okay. I'm gonna skip after sales costs for now and just come to cost to sell. Go back to my screen here. The cost of a product is both the cost to make as well as cost to sell. Now, I won't do cost to sell right now, right? Sorry, this is still coming up. A second. We'll do it in just 5 minutes, because it is the hardest thing by far. Most of us in Cleantech don't come from a sales background, but it's something that can be learned. Okay, this is still not downloading.
Could you send me that email? I will download the file and send it back to you, either on Slack or on mail. I couldn't connect Harshit now.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Sorry, 1 second.
It's calling me.
Okay, great. Let me get back to where I was. Where was I? Okay, I think I'm. So what's the cost to sell? Okay, we'll just put in a number for now, and we'll come back to 20 rupees. Okay. So cost of producing a product is both a function, of course, of cost to make, engineering work, supply, costing of inputs, and the cost to sell, and you just add together. Now, the cost to sell is the hard one, so I'll come back to it in just 5 minutes. Now, once we have the cost to make, we have to ask the question, well, how much do we sell this product? Now, there's 2 methods or 3 methods to do this. One is a simple one called cost plus. If it costs me, 100 rupees to make something, let me add 30%. So I sell at 130. This is okay in commodity business, but in the innovation side, especially, you should price on something called value pricing, which you may already be doing. It depends on the benefit to the customer, right? If it costs 100 rupees for you to make some product, and you can give the customer 500 rupees of value, cost, like cost savings, etc. You can ask for a portion of that 500 rupees. Let's say you want 200 rupees, right? Which is say 150 rupees. Sorry, which is 30%. And that's reasonable, somewhere like that. If you ask for 500, then the customer makes no money. You can ask for, let's say, so if it's 30%, 150, and it costs to make is 100, that means your profit you make is 50 rupees. If you can save your client 1,000 rupees, it does not matter that your cost to make is 100 rupees. It's what you can get from the client based on the value you create for the client. That's something that may be hard to find out and understand. It's done by good selling, experiments, finding the right customer segment, right? So however you get to it, that's the preferred route, at least in technology. 200 rupees, let's say, right? Sorry, let me just see if this is here. Okay. I think we are in business. No, we're not. That's only one. Okay. Let's leave that and continue. Now, as I mentioned, the profit is a simple reduction, subtraction. Just to summarize, the price is based on what you can sell in the market. It is ideal you sell based on value, not just a cost plus margin used in commodity business. The cost to make is of course cost to sell, which we'll look at just right now, and the cost to make. Cost to make is at scale in 2 to 3 years. This is the easier part of a financial tree, although there are a couple of component questions here that I normally get, like on the value pricing. How do I determine value pricing? What if I can really get that cost to make at scale? Right? That's all right. But maybe let me just stop and ask the questions. Does anyone have any questions here? It's pretty straightforward so far. You give me a thumbs up or some kind of emoji. That would be good.
Yes, this is clear, but in real life, taking out these values is really, really challenging many times.
The value is the pricing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. That's what we normally prefer, to really try to understand CVP, customer value proposition, in monetary terms. Because when you go and talk to a customer, you can convince him or her that this is the savings or value you create, right? It's easier for you to set a price. It gives a different benchmark.
What happens if we have a differential pricing? Like for every customer, the price is different. So how do we put this in this case?
Right. Good question. If you're a B2B business, you're selling to big companies, for example, then you can price it differently for each customer because they may have different needs. I've seen people sell products to businesses that differ by a price of 3 to 4. For example, we've sold accelerator programs to two different clients at a difference of 4 times, because the bigger client could pay more, all this stuff. So it is something you can do. If it's B2C or you need to standardize because you're using distribution channels, etc., you have no choice but to fix a price and kind of see if it's good enough for that region, right? Like if you're selling to smaller restaurants in Hyderabad, right? It may differ from small restaurants in Bombay. The margins in Bombay are different from the margins in Hyderabad. The cost of energy may differ in different states, for example. So you may do differential pricing by these factors, but because you're using distribution channels that can't negotiate easily, you'll have to fix a price. This is one of the harder things to do, for sure. The mistake I often see is that people undersell, underprice, not overprice, because the overprice is easy, but underprice, thinking that's the best way to sell. But in fact, they're probably selling to the wrong target, and that could solve the problem as well. We'll come back to this as well because it's a good question on this price. I want to show small things. What if you have after sales support? Suppose you have to, you have to service warranties, whatever this support is. We can use this model, this approach, which is just again an amortization approach, meaning spread the cost over a number of products. So here's an example. If you're in Pune, and you had 100 customers buying one machine, let's say that's 100 machines you're selling in Pune. And each year you expect one of these machines to fail that you'll have to replace at your cost, not your client's cost. And you need 10 machines. You expect 10% to need some service. Okay. First, you'll need some, call center or someone manning the phone. Okay. And we've designed this 100 customers Punes and so that one call center can manage only Pune. Right? If they can handle 2 cities, then it'd be half a call center, for example. So we assume for this Pune and 100 customers, 1 call center operator and 2 technicians who are going there, right? Let's say the machine costs 2 lakhs and the cost of servicing to us is 10,000. Then all we have to do is look at the salary over 1 year of the call center operator, whatever that is. I just put in 4 lakhs. Cost of your 2 technicians, 6 lakhs for each, 12 lakhs. Cost of replacing the broken machine servicing, there's 10 of them, that's 1 lakh. And the cost of replacing 1 machine. Sorry, where did I have that? Oh, I forgot to add that. Oh, cost of replacing 1 broken machine. 10 lakh. Sorry, there's a little mistake. My thing. All we need to do is add up all these costs. Let's say we'll call this a service area. It's 27 lakh cost of your call center. The 2 technicians, all this stuff, and divide by the number of machines sold. So now I have an estimate that it cost me 27 lakh after sales support, Pune, and I've sold 100. So the after sales support division is 27,000 rupees per machine sold. Simply put, after sales cost to make. Not technically cost to make. It works for me. A 3 point. You just plop it into cost to make. Any questions? And we'll always have some sort of support after. That's sometimes cost that we don't calculate.
No, sir, no question as of now. No,
Sorry,
sir,
yeah.
no question as of now.
Oh yeah. So now we're gonna do the hard one. The hard one mainly because I come from sales background. Okay. We're gonna start with a concept called the life of the product. If your machine lasts 2 years, it breaks down and needs to be replaced, then it's 2 years. If you have a banana and it gets eaten, you're selling a banana and they need to buy another banana. It's the time it takes to buy the second banana. So it's not related. In the first case, it was related to the breakdown of the machine. The second, by the consumption of banana. But the key point is, when does the customer come back to you to replace it? So if you have a copier machine in office, once it breaks, normally someone buys immediately. Okay. If you have a banana, if you're buying grocery, vegetables, or fruit on Saturday, and you finish that fruit on Wednesday, you may still wait till Saturday to buy again, or whatever that cycle is. So we call the life of the product 1 week. Right. So okay. Now, why is this? And then maybe another example: if someone buys a car, and it can last 15 years, and in this target audience that we have, they like newer cars. So this is, especially when I was growing up in the US, it was common. You would sell your car after 5 years and get a new car. Your technical life of the product was 15 years, but from the business point of view, it's 5 years. After 5 years, the customer will come back to us and buy a new car. So that's how we created life of the product from a repeat order point of view. Now, another concept that we need is called the life of the customer. Now, this is the most important one. When you sell, selling is expensive. And there's a rule that's an old global rule that I've seen data before. It's across industries, all this stuff. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's generally pretty good rule of thumb. It costs 6 times more to get a new customer than to keep your old one, right? Now, why is that? Now, I want to buy a new cereal. No, I keep seeing these ads to try a new cereal. I ignore it for 2 years. I finally tried it. I love it. And I keep buying it just on a repeat when I go and I say, I'm looking for that brand. So technically, after I start buying it, I don't even need advertising to hit me say, you should buy this. In fact, I haven't changed cereal in 30 years. I haven't changed toothpaste myself in 30 or 40 years. And sometimes people, when they buy a car, Mahindra car, they may upgrade, but they still stay in the same brand because I trust the brand. Like, Mahindra is a safe car, quality car, for example. Right now, the reason why this is important is that if we just looked at the acquisition cost or the over time or the cost of sales, it's high at the beginning, right? Like when the bank comes to me, they keep calling me, they want to visit and want me to open a bank account several times. After I get a bank account, they know I don't get too many calls, right? I don't get too much servicing from the sales side, at least. Why would they? It's a switching is maybe once a year they'll call me and say, is everything okay? So the cost of maintaining the sale falls drastically after you acquire the sale. Now, from a financial model point of view, I look unprofitable at the beginning because my cost of sales is high. And in fact, for many businesses, the cost of sales in terms of cash flow is negative on the first purchase, right? That's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that's the nature of this curve, right? It's hard to get people to switch. After time, I become, at least from a cash point of view, much more profitable. Now, that's great, except it doesn't help me for profitability analysis. I want to know, well, I took this curve, for example, and I made it a straight line. So let's say, I'll give an example. In year one, it cost me 100 rupees to get a new client. In year two, it cost me 10 rupees, maybe a really small phone call to make sure everything's going. I've spent 110 rupees, right? But for me to understand profitability, I need to kind of figure out how to amortize this cost or change the way it looks. So I take the 100 plus 10, 110 divide by 2, and I show this as 55 rupees a year of my sales cost. It's not accurate because we know that we spent more, but it'll tell me the real profitability of a project. It doesn't give me this misleading, I lost money year one, I made money year two. Nothing happened, right? It's just the nature of sales and retaining sales. Any questions about this idea of life of customer so far? Why we do this is we calculate the total cost of sales over per customer,
Sir,
and then divide by the number of products that we sold. So we have this true measure.
so in my point of view, life of a customer depends upon the quality of products that we provide or the service we provide during the while providing the product.
What is your product again?
Pardon, sir?
What is it? What do you sell again?
Yeah, we deal with solar power plant, irrigation pump, solar drinking water pumps, street light, high mass street lights, all this, and all these things involve solar battery, solar panel, inverter, and all these kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it depends on, let's say, the same as a product, meaning resell to a person again. Once they have something on the rooftop, it's pretty much they sell it. It collapses years, 10, 15, 20 years later, or they sell their house. So there's no difference between life of product and life of customer. If you're a commodity trader, your life of and customers the same. I sold Arvind. Next time I approach him, he doesn't know brand loyalty. He may just go with quickly. The prices will be less. Right? So again, the life product is different from the life of customer. I work with Future, and I'm putting a solar solution on their roof. It may take me a while to get the contract. They have to trust me, technical due diligence, they make sure contracting works, test the first plant, etc. After that, they'll call in and ask me for other plants quickly. I don't have to keep selling. I go through to get my first Future Group rooftop solar solution, Big Bazaar, for example. The second time they say, hey, I have another plant here. Can you do a pre-feasibility and send me a quote? It may be 2 meetings, right? Now, the point I'm trying to make is life customer comes from any brand loyalty that's developed, right? Whenever you sell to big companies, brand loyalty or at least life of customer rises because onboarding is very long. It's very hard. And it may take 6 months, for big companies, 18 months to test, retest, share with their dealers, get the dealers feedback, whatever the process, Once you do, they don't list every time with new people. They just go with the same people who have been on board, right? So life of customer is long when the selection process is hard or long as a proxy. So how do we find out this life of customer? It's not clear. That's unfortunate. If you have like a long onboarding process with a customer, lots of tests, assume that your life of customer is long, 3, 5, 7 years. If you assume that it's easy for them to switch and test, the switching costs, then probably life of customer is low because they will switch and try other things pretty quickly as well. Like in EPC work, it may have lower life of customer than other products. Right? You'll know by being in the market. It's an important value to create because even if you don't know it now, it helps us model to make sure we're going to make profits today. Now I'll come back to this in a bit because it's still not clear. Well, for my startup, what is my customer? What do I do next? I understand, but let me finish the model and I'll come back. Let me show you how I'm going to use it. So we have a life of product and life of customer. Now, oops, these have to download. What is going on? Okay. So sales per customer, it hasn't come up, but it's actually quite straightforward from the life of product and customer. If I have a machine that breaks down, a copier that breaks down every 1 year, that's the bad side. But let's just, for the sake of example, breaks down every 1 year. And I believe my life of customer is 3 years, meaning once I get the first sale, next 2 sales are relatively easy. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed, it's just relatively easy from a modeling point of view. So my life of customer is 3. That means, well, over the life of the customer, I defined it to be 3 years. How many sales do I get? Well, 3 life of customer, 3 divided by life of product 1 is 3. So I can sell to that customer 3 copiers in 3 years. Okay. I sell some organic vegetables, right? And I believe that they're not going to look for other solutions over a year, and they buy every week, right? Let's say they buy a kg of organic carrots each week. So I'm defining my life of customer to be 1 year, right? I'm defining the life of the product to be 1 week as they come back to me once a week, right? And if I divide up, life of customer and life of product, I get 52 sales, which makes sense. 52 times once a week the customer is going to buy. Any reason why this is not working?
It's
I think, by the way, what Harsha said, it was still only a single worksheet. When you download this, that's the problem, not the workbook.
Can you download the mail I sent you?
Yeah, it's only one. Let's see if this works.
I mean, a sheet with a document with only one sheet.
Oh, okay. Actually, it is here. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen, but the browser, the Chrome browser.
Okay. Scan. Okay, good. So
Yes.
sales per customer, I just did the life of the customer that I guess divided by the life of the product, how often they come back, and I get 3 sales for the customer over the life of the. That's the key point here. Each time I sell, how many products? It's a car, probably 1. Nobody buys 2 cars at a time. If it's onions, maybe kg at a time. I don't know. Let's say 2 kg. I define my product 1 kg. So it's just each time I sell to that person, it's 2 items, 2 products. In this case, that was an example I was using selling reams of paper, read 500 sheets of paper. Right? And to a corporate client, they buy 10,000 reams. So to sign a contract, I want to buy your paper. I will buy 10 products. Each product being one.
Pratap,
read.
should you? I think you should can turn your video off. There's a bit breaking in your voice sometimes.
Oh, let me try that. Right. So I have my sales per customer, but I still want to know every time I sell how many products. And often for us, it could be one, but this gives us a little flexibility. Now, by simple math, which is automatically calculated here, if I have 3 sales to a customer over those 6 years, each time I'm selling 10,000 reams of paper, I'm selling 30,000 products over the life of the customer. Just multiply together, right? I have to, that's the number of products per customer. Now I have to do my cost to sell per customer, which I'll show in just a bit. Right? If I have 30,000 products I'm selling over the life of the customer, it costs me 6 lakhs to sell over the life of the customer. If I divide the both, I get 20 rupees cost of sale per product. Right? All I did again was divide. Over the 6 years, cost me 6 lakh. Over 6 years, I sell 30,000 products. Divided, I get 20 rupees per product is the cost of sales. And then the rest of this we already did. So you can see how we're going to do this now. It still begs the question, how do I calculate the cost of sales? Before I get into that, any questions?
I actually not sure whether, I mean, can we do this kind of analysis before we launch a product in the market? And how do we do that, like life of customer, and more so if our product is new or innovative?
Right. So yeah, so you're asking like, well, before we launch, how do we get this data? Right. It's partially a chicken or egg question, but that is sort of the art of valuation, right? We have to create a scenario that we believe and convince someone. My cost to make, if I get scale, is 150. My price, given that my understanding of customer value proposition, my understanding, given that, is I can charge 200. I haven't done it yet. I can do it because I'm making him or her 1,000 rupees. So I'm asking for 20%. 150 because I went to design engineers and they helped me because it's similar products. What would be the cost to make at scale? I got their expert opinion. In the other stuff here, like the life of customer, I looked at a similar product, asked other salespeople in that industry, well, how do you measure your life of customer? They say 5 or 6 years. Okay, right. All these are reasonable ways to get some basic information for a product that's never launched. It may be a lot of work. That's a different point. But these are acceptable ways to get sufficient understanding of what this profitability is. Otherwise, you're stuck with something. Well, how do I know all this is worth it as an entrepreneur? How do I convince someone to give me money today? As without even a product in the market, we have to make these assumptions. Recognize there's uncertainty, right? That's okay, but at least have some either, technical basis like CVP, value proposition for the price, or expert opinion, engineers on manufacturing scale, salespeople of life and customer, and that's good enough. So I think the idea here is let's always think that whatever is good enough at this stage. Ask other people, get 3 opinions. If they're about the same, it's probably going to be right in most cases, and that's fine. It may not be satisfactory. I forget who asked that question, I think that's, but it has to be done because you have to show some profitability now and some basis for it, even if you haven't launched. Okay.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Thank you.
And then now to follow that is the hardest part of this whole exercise, cost to sell. And we'll stop there because the rest is pretty straightforward. How do I know the cost to sell? I haven't even sold anything. I'm doing it by myself. I haven't hired salespeople. Cost to sell the secret comes from something called a sales funnel. It takes minutes for, especially for business to business sales, it takes multiple times to meet a client. It's almost never sometimes it's okay. In some 1 or 2 meetings, anytime 3 to 6 meetings, be technical, or high cost items. Like if you're selling fence arms, you probably have 30 meetings over 4 years. And maybe there's a when I was doing solar rooftop in Pune for clients, I assumed it was 3 to 4 meetings. It turned out to be 7 to 8. I didn't know, actually. I thought it would be a relatively straightforward sale. You'll also may find the problem. They hope it's fun number of meetings. It may turn out to be different. So okay, again, the best we can is find someone doing a similar sale. Ask them how many meetings. Now here's an example of how we'll get this cost. Suppose I want to find in a city how many people could take my solar top solution. I find 1,000 companies in a big city. Maybe it takes 15 minutes to research each of these targets. I look at their website. I look at something that suggests they main energy, like industry they're in, all that stuff. So if I multiply 1,000 and 16 minutes, that's 250 hours to do this. In collecting targets, right? Sometimes when we'll do this, we just go with leads or referrals, but when you build a sales, you'll have to do this systematically. Those 1,000, you call 100 because you pick the top 100, whatever criteria, and you make a phone call. Maybe it's a 30-minute phone call, but you need some prep time. Afterwards, write your notes, and let's say it takes 1 hour per call. That's 100 hours, right? Now, of those 100 calls, you get a meeting for half. It's actually pretty good, by the way. And let's say it takes half a day per meeting. Well, why does a meeting take half a day? It's only 1 hour meeting. Especially in the old days, you travel there, travel time to get there, travel time to get back, to maybe writing up the meeting, follow-up email. It has to be nicely crafted with the notes. You have to log your own notes. So it becomes 4 hours, 1 hour meeting, 4 hours of all the work for a sales meeting. So if you have 50 meetings, half a day each, that's 25 days, right? And there's a small little error here as well. That's all right. Let's say of those 50 first meetings, only 20% give you a second meeting. Again, half a day. That's actually five days total. 10 meetings in half a day. Sorry, another mistake here. Now, finally, after those 10 second meetings, only 2 call you back for final for negotiations, and you close those 2 sales. Now, this is what actually sales look like, at least in business sales. It doesn't look like 100 targets, 90 will buy. It looks bad like this. Maybe not these numbers. The point is, it looks like a, what do you call it, a funnel, literally a funnel. 1,000 targets to research, 100 phone calls, 50 first meetings, only 10 meetings, second meeting, of which only third and final meeting for 2. So if I add up all this time here, 2 days, 10 days, 25 days, and 350 hours, I get 80 days, assuming an 8-hour day for 2 sales. So that's how I get my understanding of how many sales days per meeting. Now, what does this cost me? Suppose I hire a salesperson. Well, salesperson, even though there's 365 days and there's only 250 working days, and of which there's only, let's say 160 sales days. Well, what happened to the other 90 days? Well, there's company meetings, there's training time, there's research, there's all the other stuff that salespeople do except sales. So it's not trivial. It's not the majority, but this is, what is this? 65% of the time, this salesperson is working. 35% they're doing the other stuff, in the office, etc. Now, once I have this number 160 and I have the number of days per, in this case, 2 sales, I just divide, right? 160 days, I can make 4 sales because it takes 80 days sales days per 2. This is on average, right? So now I have 160 in 1 year, one salesperson can make 4 sales. Now what's my cost? I look at the salesperson, what's the salary? Okay. Okay, one salesperson. Let's say I put a salary, it doesn't matter, 1.5 lakh, right? Which means 18 lakh a year. But there's also overhead, if they're taking part of the rent, there's training costs, etc. So we put another overhead charge, something. You can do this for your own business because it may differ. I put in half a lakh, that's 2 lakhs per month, of which 75% is salary. So I get 24 lakhs per year as one salesperson. Here I know a salesperson can make 4 sales. So 24 lakh divided by 4 is 6 lakhs per sale. So if you remember, this is what we want to get is what's the cost of sale per sale. In this case means acquiring a customer. Right, sorry. So this is the effort where I think Sapna was asking, how do I know this? Even this you don't know. Most people don't know until they start selling. The best way to do this is get that research, call someone in a similar industry or someone with similar sales process and just ask, sell it to the same target audience. Just ask, how long does it take to close a sale? What's your failure rate? And they may not give you this data that looks like this, but they'll give you some indication. You know what? I only sell 1 for every 40 people I meet. That's reality. Okay, maybe they'll tell you all this, but gives you some, maybe from, that says from the first meeting to sale, it's 1 to 4, 1 to 40. Okay. How do I know how many meetings? That's the harder one. They may say, you know what, it takes me 3 times to meet someone. Okay. The reason why you want to create this sales funnel is not just for understanding your sales cost or your valuation, your profitability analysis. It's also, this is how you manage sales. When I look at this, I look at, wow, I make 100 phone calls and 50 people are giving meetings. I must be pretty attractive on the phone. My product they want, nobody gives meetings so easily. But why is it that when I get these meetings, only 20% lead to a second meeting? Is it because once they see the product in person, or the discussion becomes deeper, they don't like it? Is it because the salesperson is not trained enough? Is it because the salesperson is not senior enough and the founder needs to come in? Maybe if the founder came to the final sales, out of 10 second meetings, we get 4 sales instead of 2. So you can see this becomes your metric or your tool to help improve sales by getting and collecting this data. That's another use for sure for here. And maybe one last bit before I'll just stop again is, well, this is sales cost, but what about advertising, right? That's also important. I do social media advertising, or I go to trade fairs. What about that? Well, I put this as a marketing cost, and it actually is as simple, the same model we do for after sales support. In a certain region, let's say Pune again, where you have that number, 100 new customers, you just add up all the costs that you're spending in Pune. It could be social media costs, it could be trade exhibitions, whatever it is. They're normally fixed costs, marketing costs. And you divide up the total cost that you're spending, divided by the number of new customers, and you get the marketing costs per customer. So you get your full cost, total sales cost per customer, your direct sales, this sheet here, plus your indirect, the marketing costs, your indirect sales costs per customer, and you get those sales. Plug that in here to get whatever that number is turned to be. We calculated 30, number of products, and we get the cost of sale. So this is a lot of work here for sure, but I do, I think there's a lot of questions here, like where do I get this data? So I mentioned people have this, you look for analogous sales cycles, you look for analogous products, many things. Or you create a CVP, customer value proposition. How much do I sell to the customer? And then you're based on that, I want 20%, you get a price before you start selling. Now, that is a lot of work, but the good thing about this is you don't need to do more than this for years to come, right? Even if you are very successful, it's larger, you have a 50-person team, this is the level of understanding you should be able to master as an entrepreneur comfortably. It may take some time, maybe a few weeks. It is also not the only thing. You do need a financial model, right? Let's say if you're going to raise money, even that you can give to somebody else. This one you as an entrepreneur should take. Maybe I'll stop here. We won't do the bottom half because it's much easier. It's enough work to do a financial tree. Maybe I'll stop just for questions. Is this something that you think is doable? It doesn't have to be this week. It doesn't have to be this month. Something doable with your either skills, understanding, or access to networks?
Yes, it is doable, but it will require a lot of information and a lot of data for put in detail. And I hope you'll be sharing so that we can even attempt on finding information.
Right. Yeah, you can use this. You can do this always. You can do this iteratively. Start with gut feel. Then go and say, you know what? I want to focus this week on cost to make. What is scale economies? Let me find 2 or 3 engineers through my network. Some friend knows this, who can help me understand what manufacturing scale can do for me. Let me call my vendors. Maybe you're making a product now, right? Like Sapna's EPC. Hey, look, I do this kind of sales business. If I increase from my size to 10 times in megawatts, right? What would it cost me? I can collect that data generally pretty fast. For example, for that part of cost to make, close that and finish it, and then move on to something else. You know, cost life of customers get hard, but start talking to salespeople, how they understand life of customer. Talk to them about their sales funnel, right? Talk to 3 people, get a approximate answer. Next month after, talk to 3 more and refine this, right? So don't worry about perfection. Don't worry about doing it all together. Keep it building over time. This is the bit to really strengthen whatever you're doing on the ground. Some of you launched, some of you are about to launch. That's a lot of hard work. This one is as well. It's also necessary, especially if you're fundraising. You can use this tool also not for fundraising, just to answer a simple question. I have 2 customer segments, one here, one for small restaurant owners in Pune versus large offices, commercial offices or shopping markets for, let's say, some energy efficiency AC. You can use this model to figure out if one is more profitable than the other. So it can even be a decision-making tool for you to select segments, sometimes products as well. So it's one of those always useful kind of tools to keep using over time. Or if you don't do it, at least when you hire someone, they do it for you, but it gives you a framework they can discuss in a structured way why, hey, we should focus on shopping malls, not restaurants. Right. Well, we'll share this sheet. Maybe in open office hours is a good time to go through a little more detail on what are next steps if you are getting stuck here, right? The secret is starting where you're not stuck. Get that confidence in using a tool like this. This spreadsheet has a one worksheet for every single of these boxes, so maybe that'll also help. Excuse me as well. Great. Any other questions?
No.
Great. So give it a shot, because I think from what I heard is as you're entering market, some of you will be raising funds. So if it's 3 months from now, this could be a good time to spend the 3 months to add this as one of the important things over the next 3 months or 6 months as well. Great. I think Arvind will share this as well. And of course, in Open Office Hours, for those who have questions about financial tree or financial modeling, I can come for those in particular. For those who want help on their financial model. Great. Arvind?
Yeah,
Super.
So thank you so much, Pratap. You can have a try with this. We'll send you the template, and you can ask any doubts regarding your business specific questions in the open office hours. So it's been a great day. So happy Lori, happy Makar Sankranti, and happy Pongal to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Wish
you,
the
Pratap. It
same.
was
Thank you.
that was a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good. And do come to Open Office Hours for this one because it does take time. Yeah. Good luck,
Thank you
everyone.
so much. Thank you so much.
Bye. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Everyone.
Yeah, bye.
Bye,
Have a
Arvind.
good evening. Yeah.
Very nice.
Should we have a holiday tomorrow?